Hello guys, it's me Unstable Voltage and welcome to my tutorial for Europa Universalis for Mare Nostrum. In this video I'm going to be covering the corruption and the Condottieri mechanics. Neither of these two concepts are related, but they're both quite short, so it wasn't really worth doing a separate video for each of them. Now, if you're completely new to Europa Universalis 4, I highly recommend that you check out my Common Sense tutorial series. Those videos are a little longer, but they will teach you the fundamental basics to the game and get you up to a point where you can play competently. And if you'd like to go and check that series out, the link is in the description below the video, and you should also be able to click on the card that should be in the top right hand corner of the screen now. So first of all, let's talk about corruption. Corruption is a new mechanic that was added in Mare Nostrum and is actually part of the free patch. So even if you don't have the expansion, if you are playing on version 1.16 or above, you are going to have corruption. And corruption is represented by this new little icon on the top left-hand bar. It's very difficult to make out what the icon is. It's actually a little little bag of money with some coins next to it and what looks like some blood sort of seeping out of it. Now, corruption for most nations is going to start at 0, and corruption can run anywhere between 0 and 100. And as you can see by mousing over the corruption, it actually tells you how much you currently have and how much it changes each year. Now, there are a number of things that affect corruption, and if we just look at the tooltip, we can just go through that. Corruption increases over time due to unbalanced research, overextension, and lack of religious unity. It can be decreased by high stability and being ahead of time in administrative or diplomatic technology. If all else fails, you can spend ducats to reduce corruption over time. And as it says, corruption can affect all power costs, minimum autonomy, as well as spy defense and spy network construction. Now, I never really know with EU4 games and EU4 expansions whether or not to believe the tooltips, because they're not always accurate. I know when they were coming up with the corruption mechanic, there were several things that they had ideas for that would cause corruption. Some of those things included the size of your nation. Kingdoms didn't really get a penalty. They sort of had a 0 corruption base, but empires gained some corruption over time because of being an empire, while duchies were small enough to actually lose some corruption over time. Now, it doesn't mention that in the tooltip, so I'm not entirely sure that that has been implemented. The patch notes also suggest that you can also gain corruption if you are one technology behind, or more than one technology behind a neighbour. Now, it doesn't say that in the tooltips. It says an unbalanced research. Now, that was always part of it. If you have one tech that is 2 techs or more higher than another tech, so let's say you have admin 13 but you only have diplo 10, then you have a tech imbalance and you will start to gain corruption. So there are a few different ways that you can gain corruption. We'll go with the tooltip for now and assume that it is accurate. So by having unbalanced research, being overextended, or having a lack of religious unity, your corruption will go up. There's one more way to make corruption go up, of course, which is the Covert action, corrupt officials. Now, in order to do corrupt officials, you need to build up a spy network with someone, and you also need to take the espionage idea group and the espionage idea in order to be able to do that, and that will actually cause corruption against that particular nation. So that's pretty much how you gain corruption. Obviously, we have 0 corruption at the moment because this is the start of a fresh game. So I'm just going to use the console command to put me up to 100 corruption, which is the max. And obviously we get a warning saying our corruption is very high. Now, if we mouse over this now, it's saying that our corruption is currently going down by 0.1 each year due to rooting out corruption. Now, that's the actual effect of spending ducats to remove that corruption. But you can actually see the negative effects. This is the negative effects from 100% corruption. So foreign spy detection is minus 25%. So you're far less likely to catch a foreign spy constructing a spy network in your nation if you have corruption. Your spy network construction is minus 50%. Now, that's the speed at which you construct a spy network with another nation. So if you're at 100% corruption, then it will be 50% slower to do that. All power costs plus 100%. So if you're at 100% corruption, then everything would cost double the amount of power points, so either admin, diplo, or military. And then finally, minimum autonomy plus 50%. So that's going to put the minimum autonomy cap up in all of your provinces to at least 50. Now these figures all scale depending on the amount of corruption that you have. So if we only had half the amount of corruption, let's say we were at 50%, then you can see that all of those figures are only half of what they were before. If we then just go down to 25%, you can see they're now at 1/4 of what they were before. So that's how the corruption works. If we actually go in and have a look at our economy screen, you can now see we have this new slider here that says rooting out corruption. Now, the maximum you can spend here is... well, you can set how much of your income. It is based on your income. So as you can see, with this setting, we will pay up to X% of our income to combat corruption. It says currently how much we pay and how much it will reduce each year. And as you see, as I put up the amount that we're willing to spend, it increases the cost, but it also increases the speed at which we reduce the corruption. So you can spend up to 100% of your income to try and reduce corruption. So we could get it down from 25 at the moment, from 25, even having root out corruption at maximum, spending all of our income, then we're still only going to go down by 1 a year, and it would take 25 years to get rid of it. There are other ways, of course, such as being ahead in admin and diplotech, and also for being in positive stability as well. So if we look at the moment, we are not losing any. I've turned the root out corruption down to 0, and currently we are not losing any corruption. So let me just go and give myself a load of admin points. Now if we go and take the next admin tech, we're now ahead of time in admin. If we look at our corruption, it's now going down by 0.05 each year because we are ahead in that. That was me not hitting the right button. So I've given myself some Diplo points, and then we go and... So we're going down by 0.05. Now we're ahead in Diplo, and now we're going down by 0.1 because we're ahead of time on both of those. And what we could also do... Type it in the right box, give myself some admin points again, and if we just go in and rack up our stability, so currently at 0.1 with the tech advantage, boost up to +1 stability, now 0.12, +2 stability 0.14, and +3 stability now 0.16. So stability only gives you a difference of 0.02 per positive stability, and the tech gives you 0.05 per being ahead of time on each one of those. So that's how you get rid of corruption. So as you can see, corruption really does sort of slow you down. It means that if you're overextended, things are going to be more expensive for you. So you really want to try and avoid corruption at all costs, and it is a little bit of a money sink. Now, a lot of the people who play EU4 really don't like this mechanic. I doubt the mechanic is going to disappear, but I think Paradox may tweak with the numbers and also what the effects and causes are to this mechanic. So do expect over the next few months that may change. So with that done, let's now go through and talk about the Condottieri. Before we do that, I will just go and get rid of the corruption here, if I could spell corruption correctly. There we go, get rid of all of my corruption. So Condottieri is the ability, it is under something, alliance actions. You can offer Condottieri to another nation, and what Condottieri is basically renting out your army or some of your army as mercenaries to another nation. Now you do keep control of that army, so you don't lose control of them. You still get to move them around. But basically you get to help fight in your enemy's wars, and there are some reasons for doing it. If you're not personally at war yourself and maybe you're at max manpower but you'd like to get a little bit of money, you can actually go and rent your army out. Now you still will pay the manpower costs. If that army actually takes any losses, it will be from your manpower pool in which they are reinforced. Now you can offer Condottieri to the AI. They're very unlikely to accept unless they are in a war. You also cannot offer Condottieri to your rivals. So at the moment, we're actually playing as Castile, and if we have a look, Aragon really dislike us, but France don't dislike us. So what we're going to do here, just to set this up, I'm just going to quickly switch over to Aragon, and I'm going to go ahead and unpause the game. We've got to wait a month anyway, so we'll just speed things up. So we know that we've been rivaled. We just want to get to a point where I can get Aragon to declare war on France. That is what my purpose is here. There we go. So Aragon is going to declare war on France. This is a no CB war. I don't care. I just want to get the war going. So there we go. So what we've now done is Aragon has declared war on France. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tag back over now to Castile. So what I can do is I can, first of all, let's go and put up our army maintenance. It is at full. Good. Now, one thing you will also notice with root out corruption is if you don't have any corruption, by the way, then you won't spend any money on it at all. So you can leave that slider up, probably around 25%, just in case you do get some corruption. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is I've got my army here. I've got 2 stacks. I've got a 10 stack, and I've also got an 11 stack. And I can go ahead, I can go over to France, and I can offer my Condottieri. Now, you'll see that I've actually got 2 different armies. Now, these are the armies here, how they're split up. And it's basically pretty much the same way that you used to be able to sell ships. So let's say we wanted to rent this army out to France. So I'm going to select this army here. Now, I can actually set the amount of money that we want for those units. Now, what's going to happen is we can set it on this slider, and it's actually a multiple of their normal maintenance cost. So the most I can get from France would be 1. They wouldn't pay me over the maintenance cost because they're not really struggling. They don't feel that they need to pay me too much more. I could probably go and rent this army out here and make slightly more than their maintenance cost. So let's say we rent this army out. This is the 10 stack. You will offer France the opportunity to hire the army from us for the sum of 2 ducats 94 per month. They will have to pay the cost for the first 18 months up front. So we'll go ahead and confirm. And just before we do that, you'll also notice it says units rented out. You can only rent out a maximum of 20 regiments, but you can increase that later on with an idea group. Let me just confirm that. If we go to the idea group, I believe it is under administrative. I think it's one of the mercenaries one. Mercenary cost, mercenary maintenance, available mercenaries. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. There is definitely one somewhere that allows you to rent out more Condottieris, but I can't remember which one that is off the top of my head. Either way, what you will now notice is nothing's happened because France haven't accepted. But if we just unpause, right, France have now accepted our offer to hire. And what you will see now is that this army now has the French flag next to it. That now tells us that this army is now on loan to France, but I still have full control over this army. Now you will also see that Aragon's forces are actually this sort of weird yellow colour. Now that means that they are hostile to that army, or they're hostile to one of our Condottieris. Now, we can march into Aragon. You'll see that we're not actually at war with Aragon. We're not actually at war with anybody. We don't have anything here to say that we are at war. We are at peace as far as the game is concerned. So what we can actually do now is we can take this army and we can march into Aragon's territory. And we can siege on France's behalf. Now, we can't... Oh, military leader has died just as I was about to do something. We can go ahead and grab a military leader if we want to on that army. It's still part of the Condottieri. Our coast is being raided by Morocco. That's great. So, what you can see here is we can now move into the land that is owned by Aragon. Now, they also have access into our land as well. Now, we have military access with anyone... We're actually taking a beating here. I was hoping France would come and reinforce. They may not get here in time, and they did. So, as a Condottieri, we actually have access into all of the land that the people in the war have the access to. So I have access to France, I have access to Aragon, and anybody else in the war. Now, even though we're not at war with Aragon, Aragon can still come into my land. So I can't just run away and back off and find refuge in my own territory, because Aragon would be able to chase me there. Now, the main reason for doing this, as well as being able to rent out your army and pay off some of their maintenance costs, even if you're only renting them out for 1 times their maintenance costs, you're breaking even. But it also, they get an extra 50% army tradition, and they also get an extra 50% prestige from all of the battles they take part in. So if you want to get your army tradition and your prestige up, but you can't really go to war yourself, renting out a Condottieri to another nation is a really good idea. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, hang on, if I've got control of this army, then really I don't need to do anything. I could just sort of sit around and do nothing and just basically get the money for doing nothing at all. Well, that is technically true. However, if you don't actually use your Condottieri to engage, if you just sort of sit back in your own territory and don't do anything, then the person you're renting the Condottieri to will eventually cancel the agreement. So that's basically the way that it works. And it will also give you a penalty. It'll give you a penalty in the future. So people will be less likely to accept a Condottieri from you if you have a reputation for renting out your troops and not getting involved. And they can also cancel the Condottieri at any time. If you are renting out a Condottieri to the AI and they go to peace, there is a very good chance that they will cease to have the Condottieri from you anyway. Also, of course, if you declare war on a nation that you are renting a Condottieri to, then those agreements are all broken. So it's a nice little mechanic. It gives you the option to get involved in some combat during peacetime. You're not technically in danger. I mean, even though I'm at war with Aragon here, Aragon can't really do anything to me. They can't come in here and start sieging out my territory. I'm not in a war. I'm in no danger of losing anything to Aragon. I'm perfectly safe there. The only thing that this is going to do is cost me manpower and money for reinforcing any losses that I take. So you do still have to be careful, of course. You don't want to end up accidentally losing all of your manpower just trying to help in a war that isn't yours. But it's a nice little way to gain some money. So I hope this video has helped you understand the corruption mechanic and the way Condottieris work. In the next video, I will be covering the trade leagues. So until next time, goodbye for now.